The massive space station called Kepler-7 floated in the dark void between star systems like a glowing metal city. Ships from 12 different alien worlds surrounded it, their hulls gleaming with weapons and shields that could destroy entire planets. Inside the station, beings from across the galaxy gathered in the Great Council Chamber, their voices creating a mix of sounds that no human ear had ever heard before. Counselor Vexithera stood at the center of the circular room, her blue-scaled skin catching the light from the crystal ceiling above. Her 4 eyes moved slowly across the assembled delegates, each one representing a species that had ruled the stars for thousands of years. The Zelthari had been conquering worlds when humans were still living in caves, and she knew it. Every being in that room knew it. "The humans finally accepted our invitation," Vexithara announced, her voice carrying the tone of someone who had already won a game before it started. "After 3 years of this pointless war, they have agreed to come and discuss surrender terms." Low rumble of approval moved through the chamber. High Arbiter Gulnok, ancient even by the standards of his long-lived Cronan people, nodded his massive head. His species had been mediating galactic disputes since before most of the other races had developed space travel. "It was inevitable," he said in his deep, slow voice. "Humans are a young species. They lack the wisdom to see when they are beaten." Counselor Thekmore leaned forward from his position at the military planning table. The Vorthak General's 6 arms moved constantly as he spoke, a habit that showed his eagerness for battle. "Our fleets outnumber theirs 50-1. Our technology is thousands of years more advanced. Our weapons can crack moons in half. What did they think would happen?" "They thought they could win through stubbornness," laughed another delegate. This one from the insectoid Hyvek Collective. "Humans are known for their refusal to give up, even when logic demands it. But stubbornness cannot stop plasma cannons or shield barriers." Vexithara activated the holographic display in the center of the room. Star maps appeared, showing the current state of the war. Red markers indicated human-controlled systems, while blue showed the territory of the Galactic Council. The difference was clear to everyone present. Humans controlled maybe 30 systems, scattered and isolated. The Council controlled over 2,000 systems, connected by trade routes and military supply lines that had existed for millennia. "Look at this," Vexithera said, pointing to the human territories. "They hold a few small colonies and their home system. Earth itself is surrounded. Their supply lines are cut. Their economy is failing. Their people are demanding an end to this war that they cannot win. Yet they fought longer than expected," admitted Thekmore. "Their ships are primitive, but their tactics have been creative. They use strategies we have never seen before." "Desperation makes even the weakest prey dangerous for a moment," Gulnok replied. "But desperation does not change the fundamental balance of power. We offered them reasonable terms a year ago. They refused. We offered them generous terms 6 months ago. They refused again. Now they will accept whatever terms we choose to give them." The chamber's massive doors opened with a sound like distant thunder. A small group of humans walked into the room, their steps echoing in the sudden silence. Every alien eye turned to watch them, expecting to see the defeated faces of a broken species. Instead, they saw something that confused many of the assembled delegates. The humans looked calm. Admiral Taemin Park led the human delegation. He wore a simple black uniform with no decorations except a small silver pin that marked his rank. His face showed no fear, no desperation, no anger. He walked like a man taking an evening stroll rather than someone entering negotiations that would decide the fate of his entire species. Behind him came 4 other humans, all wearing the same calm expression. Sora Kim walked at Taemin's right side. She carried a simple data tablet and kept her eyes moving around the chamber, taking in details with the practiced ease of someone who had been studying enemy positions for years. Her job was to advise Taemin during the negotiations, but she also had other duties that none of the aliens suspected. Jinwoo Lee stayed near the back of the group, a small communication device almost hidden in his hand. His official role was to handle messages between the delegation and Earth, but the messages he would be receiving today would come from much closer than Earth. Much closer indeed. Hyejin Choi appeared to be taking notes on everything she saw, like a tourist visiting a museum. In reality, She was recording security measures, guard positions, and technical details that would be very useful to people who were not in this room. People who were, at this very moment, moving through space, in ships that no alien sensor could detect. The fifth human, Yunji Han, carried herself with the bearing of a diplomat. She had spent years learning alien languages and customs, preparing for this day. But the customs she had studied most carefully were not the ones that would help in negotiations. They were the customs that would help in psychological warfare. Vexathara gestured toward a small section of seating that had been prepared for the humans. The chairs were noticeably smaller and lower than those used by the alien delegates, a deliberate insult designed to show humanity's inferior status. "Please be seated," she said with false politeness. "We have much to discuss." Taemin took his seat without showing any reaction to the obvious slight. He folded his hands in his lap and waited, as if he had all the time in the galaxy. His calm behavior began to irritate some of the aliens, who had expected to see fear or at least nervousness. "Let us begin," Vexathara announced. "The Galactic Council has prepared terms for the end of hostilities between our peoples. These terms are generous, considering the circumstances. We could have simply destroyed your remaining fleets and occupied your worlds, but we prefer to show mercy when possible." She activated another holographic display, this one showing a long list of demands written in both alien script and human language. First, all human military forces will be disbanded except for a small planetary defense force. This force will be limited to 100 ships, all of which must be approved by council inspectors. Taemin nodded as if the demand was perfectly reasonable. "Second, all human colonies outside your home system will be evacuated. Your people will return to Earth and remain there under council supervision. No human ship will be permitted to travel beyond the Sol system without council permission." Again, Taemin simply nodded. "Third, Earth will pay tribute to the council, equal to 20% of your planet's total economic output. This tribute will continue indefinitely as payment for the cost of this war and the privilege of continued human existence." Several aliens made sounds of approval. Even they thought this was surprisingly generous. Most conquered species faced much harsher terms. Fourth, a council garrison will be established on Earth to ensure compliance with these terms. This garrison will have authority over all human government decisions that affect galactic matters. The list continued for nearly an hour. Each demand was designed to reduce humanity to the status of a minor vassal species, dependent on council approval for everything from trade agreements to scientific research. When Vexathara finished reading, she looked at Taemin with satisfaction. "These terms are final and non-negotiable," she said. "You have 24 hours to return to Earth and convince your government to accept them. If you refuse, we will resume military operations until your species is extinct." Taemin stood up slowly, his movement drawing the attention of every being in the chamber. For a moment, the room was completely silent except for the distant hum of the station's engines. Then Taemin smiled, just a small curve of his lips that somehow made several aliens feel uncomfortable without knowing why. "Thank you for your generous offer," he said, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber. "We appreciate the time and effort you have put into preparing these terms." He paused, looking around the room as if memorizing each face. "However, we must respectfully decline." The silence that followed was different from before. This was the silence of shock, of minds trying to process something that made no sense. Vexthara's 4 eyes widened and she leaned forward in her chair. "You decline?" she repeated, as if the words were in a language she did not understand. "You refuse our mercy?" "We do," Taemin replied simply. "We will be returning to our ship now. Thank you again for your time." As the human delegation prepared to leave, Taemin turned back to face the stunned aliens one more time. "Oh, and you might want to check on your home systems," he said casually, as if mentioning that it might rain later. "I think you will find the situation there quite interesting." Then the humans walked out of the chamber, leaving behind a room full of very confused and increasingly worried aliens. The council chamber erupted into chaos the moment the humans left. Alien voices rose in a dozen different languages, creating a noise that sounded like a storm of confusion and anger. Vexithara stood frozen at her position, her blue scales turning, a darker shade that indicated extreme agitation among her people. "Did they just refuse?" asked the delegate from the Mothkari Consortium, her feathered crest standing straight up in alarm. "Did those primitives actually refuse our generous terms?" Thekmor slammed 2 of his 6 fists on the table, making the holographic display flicker. "This is madness! They have lost everything! Their fleets are scattered, their colonies are cut off, their homeworld is surrounded. What possible reason could they have for refusing?" High Arbiter Gulnak remained seated, but his ancient eyes showed concern for the first time in centuries. "Something is wrong here," he said slowly, his deep voice cutting through the noise. "No species fights this long and then sends negotiators who show no fear. Humans may be young, but they are not stupid." Vexithara finally found her voice again. "They are bluffing," she declared, though her tone suggested she was trying to convince herself as much as the others. "This is some primitive psychological tactic. They think they can make us doubt ourselves with their confidence." "But what did he mean about checking our home systems?" asked the insectoid delegate, his compound eyes reflecting the chamber's lights like tiny mirrors. "Why would he say that?" "Another bluff," Thekmor growled, but he was already reaching for his personal communicator. "Though I will verify that our military positions remain secure." Across the chamber, other delegates were doing the same thing. Communication devices appeared in alien hands as each representative tried to contact their homeworlds. At first, the attempts seemed normal. Standard military channels opened, authentication codes were verified, and connections began to establish. Then the problems started. "I cannot reach the Zelthari High Command," Vexithara announced, her voice tight with worry. "The communication array is responding, but no one is answering." "Same here," said the Cronin military advisor. "Our defense stations are active, but command personnel are not responding to direct calls." One by one, similar reports came from around the chamber. Home systems were accessible through normal communication channels, but military and government officials were strangely absent from their posts. The pattern was too consistent to be coincidence. Meanwhile, on the human ship docked at Kepler 7, Jinwoo Lee sat in the communication center with a device that looked nothing like the simple translator he had carried into the council chamber. His fingers moved quickly across a complex control panel as encrypted messages began flowing in from across the galaxy. "Admiral," Jinwoo called to Taimin, who had just entered the room. "We are receiving confirmation signals from all 12 target systems. Operations are proceeding exactly as planned." Taimin nodded and took a seat beside Sora Kim, who was reviewing tactical displays on her tablet. The device showed star maps that looked very different from the ones the Galactic Council had been studying. These maps showed the real positions of human forces, hidden by technology the aliens did not know existed. "Status report," Taimin requested calmly. "Fleet 7 has reached optimal position around Zelthari Prime," Jinwoo reported. "They are maintaining stealth protocols and awaiting final authorization. Fleet 12 is in position at the Cronin homeworld. Their defense platforms have not detected our presence. Fleet 3 reports successful infiltration of Vorthak space. Their military command center is now under observation." The reports continued for several minutes, each one describing human forces that had somehow reached the heavily defended core, systems of the galaxy's most powerful civilizations. Forces that had traveled undetected across thousands of light years and were now in position to strike at the heart of alien power. Sora looked up from her tablet. "All sleeper agents have confirmed activation. Government buildings, military installations, and communication hubs are being monitored. We can take control of critical infrastructure within minutes of receiving the order." Hai Jin Choi entered the communications center, no longer playing the role of a simple note-taking diplomat. "Psychological profiles indicate optimal timing for revelation. Alien stress levels are rising as expected. They are beginning to doubt their assumptions about human capabilities." "And our people in their territories?" Taimin asked. "All safe and in position," Hyejin replied. "Turns out that when you spend 10 years placing human civilians in alien colonies, teaching them local languages and customs, and giving them normal jobs, nobody suspects they might be intelligence operatives. The aliens see humans as primitive, so they never considered that we might be capable of long-term strategic planning." Back in the council chamber, the atmosphere had changed from confusion to genuine worry. More than an hour had passed since the humans left, and still no alien government was responding to direct communication attempts. Lower-level military personnel could be reached, but they reported that their commanding officers had mysteriously disappeared from their posts. "This cannot be coincidence," Gulnok stated, his ancient mind working through possibilities that younger species might have missed. 12 different homeworlds, 12 different species, all experiencing the same communication problems at the same time. This suggests coordination. Coordination by whom? Vexithera demanded. Human ships are barely capable of faster-than-light travel. Their weapons cannot penetrate our shields. Their technology is thousands of years behind ours. Their technology, that we know about, corrected the Mothkari delegate, her feathers now flat against her head in a display of fear. What if we have been wrong about their capabilities? Thekmor stood up abruptly, his military training overriding his political position. I am ordering immediate defensive alerts for all council territories. Whatever the humans are planning, we will be ready for it. With what forces? Asked the Havek representative. Our fleets are spread across the galaxy, maintaining the blockade of human space. Our homeworld defenses are designed to stop external attacks, not internal infiltration. Internal infiltration is impossible, Vexthera insisted. Our security systems would detect any human presence. Our species have been monitoring each other for centuries. We know every ship, every person, every communication in our territories. Do we? Gulnok asked quietly. When did we last conduct a comprehensive security review of human civilians in our space? When did we last verify the backgrounds of human traders, human researchers, human diplomats who have been working in our territories for years? The question hung in the air like a poison cloud. For decades, humans had been gradually expanding their presence throughout the galaxy. They came as traders offering exotic goods from Earth. They came as researchers eager to learn from advanced alien sciences. They came as diplomats seeking to improve relations between species. They had seemed harmless, even useful. Their primitive technology and limited understanding of galactic politics made them appear incapable of any serious threat. But what if that appearance had been carefully constructed? Impossible, Thekmor repeated, but his voice lacked conviction. Even if they placed operatives throughout our territories, they would need military support to act. Where are their fleets? Our sensors show no human ships anywhere near our homeworlds. As if in answer to his question, every communication device in the chamber began receiving the same message simultaneously. The transmission came through on all frequencies, in all languages, with perfect clarity. It was a simple text message that contained only coordinates and a timestamp. Look up, the message said. On Zelthari Prime, the capital world of Vexithara's species, government officials were staring at their displays in shock. Long-range sensors had detected nothing unusual all day. The orbital defense platforms showed clear space in all directions. The military command center reported no threats, but when they looked up through the transparent dome of the Capitol building, they could see something that should not have been there. A ship hung in the sky above the city, its hull reflecting the light of Zelthari Prime's twin suns. It was clearly human in design, but it was massive, far larger than any human vessel in the Council's intelligence files. The ship had not appeared on any sensor. It had not triggered any defense system. It was simply there, as if it had always been there, waiting for someone to notice it. Similar scenes were playing out across 12 different worlds. Human ships, each one larger and more advanced than anything the Council believed humans could build, hung in the skies above alien capitals. They had arrived without detection, positioned themselves without triggering alarms, and now waited with the patience of predators that had already cornered their prey. In the Council chamber on Kepler 7, the alien delegates stared at their communication devices as reports flooded in from their homeworlds. The messages all contained the same impossible information. Human fleets, appearing from nowhere, surrounding the most heavily defended planets in the galaxy. How? Vexithera whispered, her voice barely audible. How is this possible? The chamber's communication system activated, and Admiral Taemin's voice filled the room. He sounded exactly as calm as he had when rejecting their terms. Captain Dong Hyuk Nam stood on the bridge of the Silent Thunder, watching through the main view screen as the great city ship of Zelthari Prime grew larger beneath them. His vessel hung in space like a metal mountain, its dark hull absorbing light, instead of reflecting it. For 3 days, they had maintained position directly above the alien capital, while their stealth systems kept them invisible to every sensor on the planet. Now the time for hiding was over. "Decloak the ship," Dong-hyuk ordered quietly. The shimmer that had hidden them from alien eyes faded away like morning mist. On the planet below, millions of blue-scaled Zelthari looked up to see something that their most advanced detection systems had completely missed. The silent thunder was not just large, it was enormous, easily 3 times the size of anything in the Zelthari fleet. "Sir," reported his communications officer, "we are receiving hundreds of transmission attempts from the surface. They want to know who we are and how we got here." "Standard response," Dong-hyuk replied. "Identify us as the human Navy vessel Silent Thunder. Tell them we come in peace and suggest they contact their representatives at Kepler-7 for further information." On the planet's surface, emergency meetings were already taking place in government buildings throughout the capital. Zelthari military commanders stared at displays showing a ship that should not exist. Their sensors indicated human technology, but the energy readings were far beyond anything they believed humans could produce. "How long has it been there?" demanded General Thexavara, the highest-ranking military officer on the planet. "Unknown, sir," replied his aide, her scales pale with fear. "Our orbital monitoring stations show no record of its arrival. According to our sensors, it simply appeared when it decloaked." "That is impossible. Nothing that large can hide from our detection grid." "Yes, sir." That is what makes this so concerning. Similar conversations were taking place on 11 other worlds across the galaxy. Kronan commanders studied readouts that showed human ships surrounding their ancient homeworld. Vorthak generals tried to understand how enemy vessels had penetrated their supposedly perfect defense networks. On every council homeworld, the story was the same. Human fleets had appeared from nowhere, taking positions that should have been impossible to reach undetected. Back on Kepler-7, the council chamber had become a chaos of frightened voices and desperate planning. Vexithara moved between communication stations, trying to coordinate some kind of response to the crisis that had materialized around them. "Status report from Zelthari Prime," she called out. 3 human ships in orbit above our capital. Each. One is larger than our biggest battlecruiser. No hostile actions detected, but their weapons are aimed at our government complex. Kronan homeworld? 5 human vessels positioned around our primary defense stations. They are using some kind of jamming technology that prevents our weapons from locking onto them. Vorthak space? 7 ships surrounding our military academy and fleet command center. They appeared simultaneously at exactly the same time. The others decloaked throughout the galaxy. High Arbiter Gulnak listened to each report with growing amazement. His species had been mediating galactic conflicts for thousands of years, and he had never seen anything like this. "The coordination required for this operation," he said slowly, "it suggests planning on a scale we did not think humans capable of achieving." "They are still primitives," Thekmor insisted, though his voice lacked its earlier confidence. "Their technology cannot match ours. These ships must be some kind of illusion or deception." "Test that theory," suggested the Havek. "Delegate, order your home defense fleet to engage one of the human ships. See how illusory their weapons prove to be." Thekmor reached for his communicator, then stopped. The look on his face suggested he was beginning to understand something that terrified him. "If they are real," he said quietly, "and if they have the firepower their size suggests, then attacking them would result in the destruction of our homeworld. And if we do nothing," Vexithera added, "we remain helpless while humans hold our most important worlds hostage." The chamber fell silent as each delegate considered the impossible situation they faced. Every military doctrine they knew suggested that this kind of coordinated operation was beyond human capabilities. But the evidence was undeniable. Human forces had somehow achieved complete surprise against the galaxy's most advanced civilizations. On the human ship docked at Kepler-7, Mi Young-yoon sat in front of a bank of monitors displaying data streams from across the galaxy. Her official title was Cyber Warfare Specialist, but that description barely covered the scope of her actual responsibilities. For the past 5 years, she had been quietly infiltrating alien computer networks, planting surveillance programs, and mapping the digital infrastructure of 12 different civilizations. "Admiral," she reported to Taemin, "all target networks are fully compromised. We have access to their military command systems, government communications, and economic databases. Their own computers are now working for us." Taemin nodded and turned to Junho Kang, who had just entered the room. Junho looked like a simple trade representative, but he was actually the coordinator for human intelligence operations throughout alien space. "Status of our people on the ground? All operatives are in position and ready to proceed," Junho replied. "We have assets inside every major government building on every council homeworld. Security personnel, maintenance workers, administrative staff, technical specialists, people who have been working in these positions for years, earning trust and gaining access." "How many people are we talking about?" Taemin asked. "Approximately 50,000 humans distributed across 12 different star systems, each one carefully selected, trained, and placed over the past decade. They have been living normal lives, doing normal jobs, building normal relationships with alien co-workers. From the outside, they appear to be exactly what they claim to be: human civilians seeking opportunities in the wider galaxy." Junho activated a holographic display showing the positions of human operatives throughout alien space. The map revealed the true scope of the operation. Red dots marked human agents in government buildings, military facilities, spaceports, communication centers, and power generation plants. There were so many dots that some areas appeared to be solid red. "We have people monitoring every critical system in the council territories," Junho continued. "When the signal comes, they can shut down communications, disable defense systems, control traffic networks, and access classified information. The aliens invited us into their worlds as harmless refugees and traders. They never suspected we might be building the foundation for an invasion." Taemin studied the display with satisfaction. "And our fleet positions? All vessels are cloaked and in optimal attack positions," reported Sora Kim. "We have been moving ships into place for 6 months using routes that avoid alien patrol areas. Our new stealth technology has proven completely effective. They cannot detect us even when we are directly above their planets." "How is that possible?" asked Hyejin Choi. "Our intelligence indicated that alien sensors were far more advanced than ours." "They are," Sora replied with a smile. "But they are designed to detect alien technology. They look for the energy signatures, materials, and design patterns used by known galactic civilizations. Our ships use completely different principles. Human engineering approaches the problem from directions the aliens never considered." In the council chamber, Vexithara was receiving increasingly desperate reports from her homeworld. The human ships hanging over Zelthari Prime had begun broadcasting messages directly to the planet's population. The transmissions were in perfect Zelthari language, addressing citizens by name and demonstrating detailed knowledge of local politics, culture, and current events. "They know everything about us," reported the Zelthari intelligence chief through the communication link. "They are discussing our government structure, our military capabilities, our economic systems, even our personal relationships. The level of information they possess is impossible unless they have been studying us for years." "What kind of messages are they broadcasting?" Vexthara asked. "They are telling our people not to be afraid. They say they come in peace and have no intention of harming civilians. They are explaining that this is a political action designed to change the relationship between humans and the Galactic Council. They sound like they know more about our own laws and customs than some of our politicians do." Similar reports were coming from other council worlds. Human forces were demonstrating intimate knowledge of alien societies, speaking local languages fluently, and showing respect for cultural traditions. They were not acting like conquerors. They were acting like neighbors who had finally decided to stop being polite about an ongoing disagreement. High Arbiter Gulnok raised one massive hand to call for silence in the chamber. When the other delegates turned to him, they saw an expression of wonder and fear mixed together on his ancient features. "I begin to understand what has happened here," he said slowly. "For decades, we have been fighting what we believed was a war against a primitive species that stumbled into galactic politics by accident." Fleet Commander Sung-Ho Woo watched through the main display as chaos spread across the surface of Zelthari Prime below. His ship, The Earthrise held position 3 kilometers above the planet's capital, while smaller human vessels took up positions around orbital defense stations. The aliens had built impressive fortifications around their homeworld, but all of those defenses were designed to stop attacks coming from space, not from ships that were already inside the defense perimeter. "Sir," reported his tactical officer, "we are detecting emergency communications between all major government facilities on the planet. They are trying to coordinate some kind of response, but their leadership appears to be missing." Sung-Ho nodded. "As expected, signal our ground teams to begin Phase 2. On the planet's surface, in the basement of the Zelthari High Command building, a maintenance worker named Haiwan Yu put down his cleaning supplies and opened a hidden compartment in his utility cart. Inside was a device that looked nothing like standard maintenance equipment. Haiwan had been working in this building for 3 years, earning the trust of security personnel and learning the location of every critical system. He activated the device and watched as it connected to the building's main computer network. Within seconds, blast doors throughout the facility began sealing shut, trapping government officials in conference rooms and cutting off access to emergency exits. The building's communication system switched to emergency broadcast mode, but instead of alien voices, it began playing recorded messages in perfect Zelthari language. "Attention government personnel," the message announced calmly. "This facility is now under temporary administrative control by representatives of the Human Federation. Please remain in your current locations for your own safety. Normal operations will resume once current diplomatic discussions are concluded." Similar scenes played out in government buildings across 12 different worlds. Human operatives who had spent years building normal lives in alien societies suddenly revealed their true purpose. Security guards, office workers, technical specialists, and maintenance personnel coordinated their actions with precision that spoke of extensive training and preparation. Da-Un Lim sat in a small office on the Cronin homeworld, reviewing psychological profiles she had been developing for 5 years. Her official job was cultural liaison specialist, helping human businesses understand local customs. Her real job was much more complex. She had been studying Cronin leadership personalities, mapping their emotional responses, and identifying the psychological triggers that would be most effective in breaking their will to resist. "The timing is perfect," she reported through her encrypted communicator. "Cronin psychology emphasizes honor and strength. Having their homeworld captured without a fight will create maximum psychological impact. Their leadership will feel intense shame at being so completely outmaneuvered. On Kepler 7, the council chamber had transformed from a place of alien confidence into a center of desperate panic. Delegates moved frantically between communication stations, trying to maintain contact with homeworld governments that were rapidly falling under human control. "Zelthari Prime reports that their capital building has been sealed from the inside," announced Vexthara, her blue scales now almost gray with stress. "Human operatives have taken control of their government communications and are broadcasting surrender terms to the population. Cronin homeworld confirms similar infiltration," added Gulnak, his ancient composure finally cracking. "Our most secure military installations have been compromised by personnel who have worked there for years. They knew our security codes, our personnel schedules, even our emergency procedures." Thekmore slammed his fists on the table again, but this time the gesture looked more desperate than angry. "How many humans have been living among us? How long have they been planning this?" The answer came from an unexpected source. The chamber's communication system activated, and a new human voice filled the room. This voice belonged to someone they had never met, but the confidence in her tone was unmistakable. "Honored council members, this is Yoonji Han speaking. I believe I can answer that question." Yoonji walked into the chamber accompanied by 2 human guards, who had apparently been stationed outside the entire time. The aliens stared at her in shock, realizing that humans had been controlling access to their own meeting place without anyone noticing. "To answer Councillor Thekmore's question," Yoonji continued pleasantly, "we currently have approximately 50,000 human operatives positioned throughout Council territories. They have been placed over a period of 10 years, with the most recent arrivals taking their positions 6 months ago." She activated a portable holographic projector that showed detailed organizational charts. Each operative was carefully selected for psychological compatibility with their assigned role and location. They underwent extensive training in local languages, customs, and technical skills. Most importantly, they were taught to think and act like genuine civilians rather than military personnel. Vexathara found her voice, though it sounded strained. You are saying that for 10 years you have been deliberately placing spies throughout our territories? Not spies, Yunji corrected. Civilians with secondary objectives. They have been living real lives, forming real relationships, and contributing genuinely to their local communities. The psychological profiles we developed indicated that this approach would be far more effective than traditional espionage. What? Psychological profiles? Demanded the HFY delegate. The ones we created based on detailed studies of your species' behavior patterns, Yunji replied matter-of-factly. Every diplomatic contact, every trade negotiation, every cultural exchange provided opportunities to gather data about how your civilizations function. We particularly focused on leadership decision-making processes and stress responses. She gestured to another display showing personality assessments for every delegate in the room. For example, Counselor Vexathara, you tend to become more aggressive when you feel your authority is challenged, but you also respond well to logical arguments when presented by someone you respect. High Arbiter Gulnak values wisdom and tradition above immediate action, making him more likely to seek negotiated solutions. Counselor Thekmore relies heavily on military superiority and becomes psychologically unstable when that superiority is threatened. The accuracy of these assessments was terrifying to the aliens listening. They realized that their own personalities had been studied and cataloged like specimens in a laboratory. Why? Asked Gulnak quietly. Why go to such lengths for a war that had not yet begun? Because we knew it would begin eventually, Yunji answered. Our analysis of galactic history showed a clear pattern. Young species are either absorbed into the council structure as junior members, or they are destroyed if they prove too independent. Humans value independence above almost everything else. Conflict was inevitable. So you spent 10 years preparing to fight us? We spent 10 years preparing to win, Yunji corrected. There is a significant difference. In the communication center of the human ship, Jinwoo Lee was receiving reports from across the galaxy that confirmed the success of the operation. Human forces had achieved their objectives on every target world with minimal resistance and 0 casualties on either side. Fleet 7 reports complete control of orbital space around Zelthari Prime. Local defense forces have been ordered to stand down by their own government officials, who are currently under protective custody. Fleet 12 has secured the Cronin homeworld. Their leadership is requesting immediate communication with the human command structure to discuss terms for the safety of their population. Fleet 3 confirms that Vorthak Military Command has been effectively neutralized. All weapon systems on their homeworld are now under our control. Taemin nodded as each report came in. The operation was proceeding exactly as planned, but he took no satisfaction in the aliens' fear. This demonstration was necessary to prevent a much larger war that would cost millions of lives on both sides. Admiral, Jinwoo continued, we are receiving surrender requests from 8 of the 12 Council homeworlds. They want to know what terms we will accept for the return of their governments. Tell them that Admiral Park will be returning to the Council chamber shortly to discuss new arrangements, Taemin replied. Make sure they understand that no harm will come to any civilian populations as long as their representatives remain calm and cooperative. Back in the Council chamber, the psychological pressure was beginning to show its effects on the alien delegates. Vexathara had stopped trying to coordinate resistance efforts and was simply staring at the displays showing human ships around her homeworld. Tekmore sat in his chair with his head in his hands, occasionally muttering about impossible tactical situations. Even the normally composed Gulnak appeared shaken by the revelation that his ancient civilization had been so thoroughly outmaneuvered by a species he had considered primitive. I do not understand, the Mothkari delegate said, her feathers flat against her head in a display of submission. Your technology was supposed to be inferior to ours. Your ships were smaller, your weapons were weaker, your coordination was limited. Admiral Jae-Hyun Roh stood on the bridge of his flagship as it maintained position directly above the ancient capital of the Cronin homeworld. Through the view screen, he could see the massive stone structures that had housed galactic government for over 3,000 years. Those buildings now flew human flags alongside traditional Cronin banners, a symbol that the galaxy's political order had fundamentally changed. "Sir," reported his communications officer, "we are receiving a priority message from the Cronin High Council. They are requesting permission to address Admiral Park directly during the negotiations." "Grant the request," Jae-hyun replied. "Make sure they understand that their cooperation is appreciated and will be remembered when final terms are discussed." In the council chamber on Kepler-7, the atmosphere had changed completely from the confident alien gathering of a few hours earlier. The same delegates who had been dictating surrender terms to humanity now sat in positions that made their subordinate status painfully clear. Human guards stood at strategic positions throughout the room, and the large holographic displays now showed human fleet positions rather than alien territorial maps. Admiral Tae-min Park entered the chamber with the measured pace of someone who held complete control over the situation. Behind him came a figure that none of the aliens had seen before, a man whose resemblance to Tae-min was immediately obvious. "Council members," Tae-min announced, "I would like you to meet In-soo Park, my brother and the architect of the operation you have just experienced." In-soo moved to the center of the chamber and activated a new holographic display. This one showed a timeline stretching back 15 years, marked with thousands of small events that had seemed insignificant at the time. "The plan you have witnessed today began with first contact between humans and galactic civilization," In-soo explained in a calm, professorial tone. "From the moment our species met yours, we began preparing for the possibility that peaceful coexistence might not be achievable." Vex Thara, her blue scales still pale with stress, managed to find her voice. "You have been planning this for 15 years? "We have been planning for multiple contingencies for 15 years, In-soo corrected. "This particular operation was only one of several possible responses to galactic political developments. We hoped it would never be necessary." He gestured to the timeline, which showed human expansion throughout the galaxy, marked as a series of seemingly random events. "Every human colony established in council space, every trade agreement signed, every cultural exchange program initiated, every diplomatic mission undertaken. All of these activities served multiple purposes. Young Mi SEO led our xenobiological research teams in developing comprehensive psychological profiles of every major galactic species. We needed to understand not just how you think, but how you react under stress, how you make decisions in crisis situations, and what approaches would be most effective in influencing your behavior." A new figure stepped forward from the human delegation. Young Mi appeared to be a simple scientist, but the data she presented revealed years of careful study that had mapped the psychological weaknesses of entire civilizations. "Each species has distinct patterns of leadership behavior," Young Mi explained. "Zelthari leaders become increasingly aggressive when challenged, but respond to demonstrations of superior planning. Cronin officials value honor above practical considerations, but will accept defeat if it is presented with appropriate respect. Vorthak commanders rely heavily on technological superiority and become psychologically destabilized when that advantage is removed." She activated a display showing detailed behavioral analysis for every alien in the room. "We have psychological profiles for over 10,000 council officials, military officers, and political leaders. This information allowed us to predict your responses to various scenarios and plan accordingly." High Arbiter Gulnok, his ancient composure slowly returning, spoke carefully. "This level of preparation suggests that you considered war with the Council to be inevitable." "We considered it probable," In-soo replied honestly. "Historical analysis showed that established galactic powers rarely accept new civilizations as equals. The pattern has repeated itself dozens of times over the past 1,000 years. Young species are either absorbed as subordinate members or eliminated as potential threats." "But humans value independence above security," added Tae-min. "We were never going to accept subordinate status, which meant conflict was likely. The only question was whether we would be ready when it came." Thekmore looked up from his hands, his 6 eyes showing a mixture of defeat and grudging respect. "How did you hide your true capabilities for so long? Our intelligence services monitored human technology development constantly." "You monitored the technology we allowed you to see," In-soo answered with a slight smile. "Every human ship that engaged Council forces in open combat was using deliberately limited systems. Every diplomatic facility you inspected contained carefully prepared displays of primitive human engineering. Every technical exchange was designed to reinforce your assumptions about our capabilities. Young Mai activated another display showing comparative technology analyses. Meanwhile, our actual research and development programs were focused on approaches that alien thinking would not anticipate. Your sciences evolved along certain paths over thousands of years. Human science approached the same problems from completely different directions. For example, she continued, your stealth technology focuses on manipulating energy signatures and sensor reflections. Our stealth technology makes our ships undetectable by changing how space-time itself behaves around them. Your sensors cannot find something that exists in a slightly different dimensional phase. The explanation sent a chill through the alien delegates. They had assumed that humans were simply behind in technological development. The reality was that humans had developed technologies that alien science had never considered possible. "What do you want from us?" asked the Mothkari delegate, her voice barely above a whisper. Tai Min stepped forward and activated a new display showing proposed treaty terms. The aliens read through the document with growing surprise and, in some cases, relief. "These terms are remarkably generous," Gulnak observed. "You could demand far more given your current position." "We could," Tai Min agreed, "but our goal was never conquest or revenge. Our goal was to establish a relationship based on mutual respect rather than assumed superiority." The treaty terms were indeed surprisingly reasonable. Humans requested recognition as a sovereign species with equal standing in galactic politics. They wanted guarantees that human territory would be respected and that trade agreements would be conducted on fair terms. They sought representation in galactic governing bodies proportional to human population and economic contribution. However, Taemin continued, these terms come with certain non-negotiable requirements. The tone in his voice made every alien in the room pay closer attention. First, immediate cessation of all hostile actions against human territories, populations, or interests anywhere in the galaxy. Second, formal recognition of human sovereignty over all currently claimed human territories, with guarantees that these claims will be respected in perpetuity. Third, establishment of new galactic trade agreements that treat human commerce on equal terms with that of council species. Fourth, creation of a new galactic governing council that includes human representation equal to that of any other single species. Vexathara studied the terms carefully. "And if we refuse these demands?" Insu answered quietly. "Then you will. Discover what happens when a civilization that spent 15 years preparing for peace is forced to prepare for war instead." The threat was delivered without anger or aggression, but its implications were clear to everyone in the room. The operation they had witnessed was designed to minimize casualties and demonstrate human capabilities. A real war would be something entirely different. "We have proven that we can reach your homeworlds whenever we choose," Taemin added. "We have proven that our intelligence networks span your entire territories. We have proven that our technology is more advanced than you believed possible. Most importantly, we have proven that we plan more carefully and think more strategically than you anticipated. The question now is whether you would like to build a new relationship based on these realities, or whether you would prefer to test the full extent of human capabilities in extended conflict." Gulnak was the first to respond. "Speaking for the Cronin people, we accept these terms. The wisdom of cooperation has been convincingly demonstrated." One by one, the other delegates added their agreement. Some spoke with obvious reluctance, others with genuine relief that the terms were not harsher. Within an hour, representatives of 12 galactic civilizations had agreed to completely restructure their relationship with humanity. As the formal agreements were being prepared, Vexathara approached Taemin privately. "I must ask," she said quietly, "how long have you been capable of this level of coordination? How long could you have ended this war?" Taemin considered the question carefully before answering. "We could have achieved similar results at any point over the past 2 years. But timing was critical. We needed the Council to commit fully to your assumptions about human capabilities."